Big news in Washington State. Somebody from WAMEND called in last week and mentioned this, but I wanted to get David Cobb on here and tell us what's going on. He's the national spokesperson for Move to Amend. MoveToAmend.org is the website. David, welcome to the program. Welcome back.
Thank you, Tom. It's always a pleasure to be on.
It's great to have you with us. So what's the story? What's going on?
Well, listen, Tom, things just keep moving, and I can't help but to have listened in on your last segment about changing the rules and how Ronald Reagan was so consequential because he changed rules in so many bad ways. And let's just acknowledge that Move to Amend, WAMEND, and this growing democracy movement driven by citizen power is about changing the rules to make the United States of America an actual democratic republic. To cut to the chase, in Washington State, a broad coalition of individuals and organizations have collected enough signatures to put on the ballot a statewide initiative to call for a constitutional amendment to abolish in its entirety the idea that corporations have constitutional rights and that money is First Amendment protected political speech. Big news in Washington indeed.
Yeah, it really is. It's tremendous stuff. I'm curious your thoughts. We're starting to hear with the growing alarm, the Claxton bells ringing here, that ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, and other parts of the Koch network have been working apparently for over a decade in state legislatures and to the point where they've got either 27 or 29 states now that have signed on to having a full-blown constitutional convention where we open up the entire Constitution for tinkering, and we relitigate, redebate every single part of it. This sounds to me in the era of unlimited cash to be an insanely dangerous thing to do. What is the status of that, and how does that interface with, or fight with what you guys are doing with Move to Amend?
Tom, first of all, thank you so much for actually talking about this, because we've been tracking the American Legislative Exchange Council and their role in trying to use a constitutional convention. And like you, I am very concerned. And I want to be very clear. If I could push a button and call for a constitutional convention right now, I would not only not push it, I would defend that button literally with my life. Because what I know and what you know, and I suspect viewers of Free Speech TV and listeners of your radio station know, and that is currently we have not done the necessary political education, political organizing to actually get enough people involved in the very question of our constitutional framework. I will say this, the fact that the right wing and the corporatists are engaging in that means we need to be not only tracking them, but also be building a movement to ask the fundamental questions of the American people. Who rules in this country? Is it going to be we the people, or is it going to be the American Legislative Exchange Council, Wall Street, the big bankers? So Move to Amend's position on the Constitutional Convention idea is that we don't think that it is a good idea to simply have an open convention. However, we recognize that Article 5 provides us a route of either convention of the states or Congress, and we're going to build the political demand to force the amendment to correct the court's illegitimate, completely made-up idea of creating these legal doctrines. Make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. In other words, push through an amendment, as we've done so many times, get Congress to say, okay, states vote on this thing. Rather than let's convene a constitutional amendment or let's convene a constitutional convention and invite the billionaires to come in and rewrite the First Amendment, rewrite the Second Amendment.
Yes, but with this caveat, remember that the amendment to guarantee the direct election of the United States Senate, the amendment to guarantee women the right to vote, those amendments included demands for a possible constitutional convention. So what we're saying is you're correct. There's no way I'm going to let, and we at Move to Amend are going to let the billionaire class or ALEC or anybody else control the convention process. But we're not saying that we should take off the table the idea of a constitutional amendment to guarantee access to health care or guarantee education or guarantee a right to vote.
Sure.
So the question, Thomas Jefferson reminded us that we should actually be having these conversations every 20 years. Basically, every generation should actually engage the question of how to properly structure our social, political, and economic institutions. So we at Move to Amend take it seriously, understanding that right now, the right wing and ALEC are way ahead of the game, and we as progressives, and I know you and I self-identify that way, we've got to get in that game and take it directly to the American people.
Yeah, the Koch brothers are way ahead of us on this. I mean, this is they're playing serious hardball with this, and if a Republican is elected president, or if a weak Democrat runs, and we end up with a very strong Republican House, Senate, and more Republican states, we probably will have that constitutional convention, and you can kiss this constitutionally limited Democratic Republic goodbye.
So I got to tell you, Tom, I'm not one to resort to hyperbole, but I can't really disagree with the fear that you have of this billionaire class and what they're willing to do. The reality is that we are facing a political crisis, an economic crisis, and an ecological crisis all coming together. The question is going to be whether we as American people are going to be able to come together to say we may disagree on issues, we may disagree on policy proposals, but the concept that the United States of America is a democratic Republican form of government where we the people collectively rule ourselves, but individual human rights are protected, that's something that I'm willing to fight for. I think the majority of Americans are willing to fight for. I think your viewers and listeners are willing to fight for. And we encourage you to join us. And the last thing, because I know that we have a limited time, because I want to lift up in Washington State, Fix Democracy First, Public Citizen, Backbone Campaign, Move On, Money Out, Voters In, and Move to Amend, because the WAMEND coalition is a grand coalition of multiple organizations who did the job.
In Washington State, and their website, yours is movetoamend.org, theirs is WAMEND, as in Washington Amendment, WAMEND.org. And thanks to them and the great work they're doing. Thank you to you, David, the great work you're doing with Move to Amend.
Thanks so much, Tom.
Thanks, David. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.